So today we're going to be talking about the Necrodrakon, not dragon, because I actually, when I first started the game, thought it was called a Necrodragon, but it's actually Necrodrakon. Now this is an interesting boss because the heroes they want you to use are going to be, number one, heroes that you don't want to need to use an ultimate skill on because there's going to be energy drain and stuff, but you also want heroes that have displacement abilities, and that really comes down to the abilities of the Necrodrakon. So let's talk about that, and I'm going to show you guys how our current setup does it, as well as a more optimal setup. If you guys haven't done it just yet, hit that subscribe button. We got a 20,000 subscriber giveaway. Maybe you guys can win $100 for AFK Journey, make your progress a little better. Let's jump right into it. So the reason this boss has a completely different hero lineup that you're used to is because of the abilities here. So let's just talk about this right here. Creates a mire in the area with the most enemies dealing continuous damage. This one's kind of you can't really modify that. If you are melee heavy, it might actually spread it out because sometimes the melee wrap around the boss. The next skill here is going to be basically doing damage to 2 targets with the highest HP, stunning them and draining energy. So that's part of the energy drain there. Having a couple of heroes that are very tanky up front and not your main damage dealers can help in that situation. Over here we have periodically places a crest breath beneath the enemies, dealing damage to them and reducing energy and attack. This explodes if they do not move for 15 seconds. So that's why all of a sudden you might just see your heroes disappear. This is the ability that is doing it. And as you guys can see, my current rank, not that great with my current team. However, basically if you can start moving around the battlefield, that is when it's really good. The ultimate casts a skill at 15, 40 and 65 seconds after the battle starts. This deals damage 3 times to all enemies, inflicting them with a stack of Abyss Sacrifice, which I believe is this one here, right? Actually doesn't say the names of them, but basically means that they lower their attack speed and also increases the damage they receive. Can't be dispelled or anything. So what we're going to show you first is kind of like what I feel like most people cookie cutter wise are kind of running as a squad. And you'll notice here the biggest issue is Smokey and Mirky, while still useful in this game mode, really does lose their power eventually because there is that silencing of him where he's not getting his AoE out. He's not keeping them up fully. You can see that is the big ultimate there that pulses a ton of damage. Smokey and Mirky can slowly heal your team back up because the silence isn't like permanent. However, you'll notice they have those debuffs here, and once the 15-second timer comes up, you're gonna see our heroes just disappear in combination with the ultimate, which is pretty much where we've been kind of stuck at because we've been missing a couple very key heroes in this that we now finally have up to like Mythic Plus, because most of the heroes we're going to talk about here today are Mythic Plus required because that's really where they start scaling up. So this is like our traditional lineup, still does good damage, but not as good as it could be. So it does actually kind of tell you displacement heroes you want to use, but again, most of these you want at Mythic Plus to really get the best like bang for your buck out of them. So getting summons done is important. A couple of them we have recently got to Mythic Plus is Corrin here. Again, when Corrin and the allies within 2 tiles cast their ultimates 3 times in total, he feels the nature power, blah, blah, blah. He does additional damage, all that fun stuff. It's really, really solid. Rainier is going to be another one because, again, he basically is unaffected by that debuff, and then he's also going to increase the damage of our heroes. What we're going to be doing instead of Thorin is going to be running Tamesia as well. So she just basically runs all over the battlefield, and essentially what we're also doing is we're picking heroes that have shielding type abilities as well. Corrin does, which is awesome. The only one we're not going to use right now is Merrily. We're literally 4 copies away from getting her Mythic Plus unlocked, and this is where she does a crazy amount of additional attack because of the way this works. And then of course we're going to continue using Kruger because, well, Kruger is just a debuffer and he has some good survivability with him too. So let's jump into a team example and see how it turns out with a new and improved, more optimal setup. So let's remove majority of our old setup. Potentially leaving Odie in here can be good, and honestly running Awakening spell on this one is going to be really big because we are going to be mainly using heroes that can kind of keep themselves alive. That's going to be the big part here. So I'm going to try running a team like this, although I kind of want to do this and maybe see if Shakir can do go. You know what, let's see what it's a tough choice. Let's see what Corrin can do now that we have his exclusive unlocked. And of course we want to keep our Kruger over here because we have his exclusive where he basically gains a shield, which will help him survivability wise. Tamisha is going to be the main tank. Shakir's over here. Let's see how this team works and survives. Shakir, I don't know. I gotta check Shakir. He does have a displacement ability when he uses his ultimate, but that's only one time. So he might still blow up, which might not be good. But you can see here we have heroes that have shielding going on. And again, the big thing is the artifact. The Awakening spell is going to be a lot of our healing on this one here. So let's see how this actually turns out. I'm hoping the damage is better. So far, our entire team is alive, which is important. It looks like Kruger is still being affected by that potentially, at least by the debuffs, but our team is still living and we're about to hit that 50% we were currently stuck at. Yeah, I'm not sure about Shakir. I'm also wondering if just running Odie, because he has so much burst in the early rounds, might still be good, even though he does die off. So I might drop Shakir and see, but you can see how these heroes are staying up all by themselves essentially, and this is giving us a better percentage, and as we get them stronger, we're gonna have even better numbers here. So let's see how that turned out damage wise. We did get a few extra of these dream fragments, which is awesome. So yeah, Corrin did good. Tamisha, honestly, wow, Tamisha is the MVP here. Shakir actually did really good damage. I am surprised. Honestly, Corrin might be the odd man out, or the Kruger might be, but Kruger lived very, very long right there. We'll have to see. So I kind of want to test with an Odie to see what he will do, but I'm going to send Tamisha over immediately with the Rainier. So let's see how that works out. We have a bunch. Wow, where's she going? She's in the forest. Let's see what type of damage Odie can do, honestly. Odie might still be able to put out a decent amount of damage in the early rounds, even though he's probably going to die pretty quickly. But he's just like one of the best single target damage dealers on our account and in general in the game right now. So if he can survive through a couple of these, get a few ultimates off, that'll be pretty good. It is looking, I think our damage is definitely higher than we were. Ooh, but we lost both of those ranged units at about 50%. Tamisha's still going, and Tamisha is most definitely the MVP. Holy cow, she is just killing it here. Especially since I got her exclusive unlocked where she actually recovers HP over time too. But it actually looks like damage might be a little bit lower with that change we did. And maybe, honestly, dropping the Corrin's kind of bad because he does have that shielding ability too. But yeah, Tamisha is definitely MVP. Odie put out a ton of damage there. Holy cow. Considering he didn't live that long. So let's try one more little tweak to this team maybe. Let's try to separate them a little bit so they're not standing on top of each other, our ranged units here. We can even do something like that. And I think keeping Shakir in is good. I just don't know if Kruger, I wonder if it's better running like the Shakir, maybe, and then putting Corrin back in. We can see how that goes, and maybe just separating them a little bit in case there's like the puddle AoE type stuff. That way the AoE is going to stay on the melee group. And again, Corrin has better survivability. We got to see if Kruger is needed, because if the damage drops without Kruger, then we do need to find a way to put him in. And at that point, I think we would drop Shakir. So it's a lot of just playing around with your team and seeing what works perfectly, because as much as we know what the perfect lineups are, we don't necessarily know what that's going to be in the long run. And yeah, that extra shielding from Corrin does seem to help. However, it looks like this time we are way behind on damage compared to the last one. So let's try doing the same thing, leaving Odie in the lineup too, and let's drop Shakir, because honestly, Shakir is quickly becoming one of my like disappointments in the game. It sounds weird to say, but it just he doesn't do as well as I really wished he would, especially with a +5 exclusive weapon. So let's try one more and see how that turns out. So this is what I'm kind of thinking, putting the Kruger back in, keeping the Corrin in the lineup, the Tamisia being the swap hero, and Odie being here as well. Honestly, it would probably be best if I swapped Odie, but I kind of want to wait until I get that higher level exclusive on Rainier to give him the 25% damage reduction. But let's see how this works. Again, we have the awakening spell going off to give us some sort of healing. Corrin still looks like he wants to go down, but he's really surviving with that shield so far. But he did go down, and that's not great. And we're about to lose some of the other heroes. So yeah, honestly, running the Odie as good as it feels, it might even be better for us to run one support hero that will heal. Man, I actually want to keep testing more combinations at this point, because this one was definitely disappointing. Maybe running a Smokey and Mirky still can be good. So I think this is going to be our final setup that we're going to test and see if it works out. Maybe swapping the Tamisia is the mistake here, and we should go back to Corrin just for potential survivability and such. But maybe adding the Smokey and Mirky in helps, because number one, is going to provide healing, but on top of that, it's also giving bonus attack to our allies. And if he does get a third ultimate off, he's going to have that really powerful blue aura come out, and it might make us last until the end of the battle, which is kind of what we're hoping for. Even though he is going to be exploding, I think his healing might help offset that, because again, he's still alive at the 40% mark. Our damage is a little behind because we are missing a damage dealer, but we'll see how this turns out. If, come on, oh no, he did die before he got his last hit off, but 20 seconds left. We got a couple heroes still up. Is it going to beat our 64%? I'm kind of leaning towards no. Yeah, it's definitely not. So it's definitely something where you have to play around with the heroes. Tamisia, this is the big reason why you build this hero for this right here. It's just such a good combination, it feels like. In reality, I think I'd like to try one last one here, but I want to swap Corrin again. Last attempt. Man, I could do this all day, just like testing all different teams out. Sadly, there's a limited number of attempts you can do a day, and I don't want to buy extras for gold right now because gold is a premium for me. I'm really running out of gold right now, so let's see how this does. This might give Corrin a little bit more survivability, which keeps him alive, which lets him do a little more damage. Rainier is just going down kind of early, but Corrin is keeping that shield on Rainier, which is really, really important to keep him alive. Maybe one additional hit, which still didn't quite get there. I will say though, this attempt Corrin was much tankier. See if that turns out to be a reason why we could win. And again, once we get that 25 damage, oh no, we still go down. So yeah, our first attempt once we changed our team over was actually one of the best with Shakir, which is interesting. Even though Odie does go down very, very early, his damage is still one of the best. So playing around with the team is important. I mean, I guess we could try an attempt with Rainier, but we'll leave that for tomorrow. Hopefully you guys enjoy this one. Let me know how your team is going for the Necrodragon, and I'll see you guys next time.